Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk on the next step, perimetry and OCT, a quick guide to interpretation. We all know that automated perimetry is a gold standard in glaucoma diagnosis and management. So when a perimetric test is needed, what we do advise? We advise a 24-2 size 3 white CETA standard threshold. This is usually the best choice of perimetry which is to be advised. So coming to the interpretation, to interpret the visual field systematically, the printout is divided into 7 sections or 7 zones. So basically, this is the way we divide our printout. So I'm going to talk about each of these zones separately so that we can discuss how to what are these zones. So coming to zone one, basically it is a demographic and testing condition. This is the document with which patient documents the patient's data, that is a name, ID, date of birth, age, date and time of testing, visual acuity, pupil size, and the eye test date. It also shows the strategy, fixation target, and the refractive correction. So this part of the printout or the Humphreys field will show you this. I'm basically an Humphreys user, so I'm going to talk only about how to read a normal Humphreys printout. So coming to the zone 2 is the reliability criteria. Basically, what are these reliability criteria? You have the fixation losses, which is a gaze stability. It should be less than 20%. You have the false positive, which should be less than 50%. If it is more, that means it's a trigger happy patient. Then you have the false negative. What is this false negative? It assesses the patient's inattention or advanced disease. And when the fields are not being performed properly, it shows an unacceptable errors which are marked by 2 crosses. And it also shows the four-wheel threshold, which should be more than 30 decibels. So this is gaze tracking. Basically, you can see it measures the gaze direction every time a stimulus is present. It is present at the bottom of the single field analysis printout. The line extending upward it amounts to the gaze of a gaze error during stimulus presentation, and the line extending downwards is basically the unsuccessful instrument is unsuccessful measuring the gaze direction that is blink. Coming to the zone 3 is the grayscale. Grayscale, it is basically the threshold numeric values which are expressed in gray format. The dark areas indicate reduced sensitivity and it is important depicting the artificial loss and profound visual field effects. Zone 4 is a total deviation plot. Now, what is this total deviation plot? It has a numerical plot and a probability plot. It is point by point difference of the patient's threshold from those expected in age corrected normals. So it shows the overall sinking of the hill of the vision and is usually caused by media opacities like cataract cornea or refractive error in miosis. The probability plot predicts the chances of such a normality occurring in the normal population, and it is shown there also. And a scale is provided for ease of interpretation. Coming to the pattern deviation plot, which is the zone 5, the machine adjusts for the overall depression of the visual field due to cataract or some other reason, and it highlights the localized photomas that have been hidden inside this depressed visual field. The numerical plot and probability plot is shown in this pattern deviation plot also, and in the probability plot, try to look for the abnormal points in clusters. Probability plot is the single most useful analysis when glaucoma is suspected. Coming to zone 6 is basically the global indices. It shows the statistical manipulation of total and pattern deviation plot. All the plots are reduced to a single value that provides us uniform information about our patient's visual field. There are 3 such global indices. You have the visual field index, the mean deviation, and the pattern standard deviation. So what is this visual field index? It is called as VFI. It represents the entire visual field as a single percentage of normal. So it is more sensitive to changes in the center of the field. It provides improved correspondence to the ganglion cell loss. It is less affected by cataract. So 100% means it is a normal function, 0% means it is a perimetric blindness. Coming to the mean deviation, basically it is weighted average of the values presented in the total deviation plot. It indicates the overall depression or elevation of the patient's hill of vision. Positive number indicates elevation and negative number indicates a depression. A negative number is likely to be found on cases of media opacity such as cataract, corneal opacity, refractive error, or miosis. Coming to pattern standard deviation, it highlights any irregularity in the visual field or photomas that may be hidden in a depressed hill of vision. You can see in this picture, it is low for normal fields, for uniformly depressed fields, and for blind fields. It is highest in moderate to advanced localized loss. Now, VFI and MD, that is the visual field index and the mean deviation, will help us in staging and following the patients. The levels of statistical significance compared to normal are shown next to the mean deviation, the PSG values that fall outside the normal range. So if the value is given without any p value, that it is considered as normal. Zone 7, coming to the glaucoma hemifield test, basically it's a visual sensitivity is measured in 5 zones which are located as mirror images in the superior and the inferior quadrants of the visual field. And how do we interpret this? The interpretation of the glaucoma hemifield is interpreted as outside the normal limits. That is, at least one zone pair differs by an amount found in fewer than 1% of the normal population. Borderline, which means at least one zone pair differs by an amount found in fewer than 3%, but more than 1%. Abnormal high sensitivity, the best test points location is elevated to an extent expected in less than 0.5% of the population, and abnormal low sensitivity, which means the best test point location is depressed to an extent expected in less than 0.5% of the population. Then you have within the normal limits, that is none of the above conditions are met. So there are the 5 interpretations of the glaucoma ambulatory field test: outside normal limit, borderline, abnormal high sensitivity, abnormal low sensitivity, and within normal limits. Coming to zone 8, that is the actual threshold values are shown in this. It is a raw data. It is inspected for any pattern or scotoma. So by concentrating on the actual threshold values, one may pick up a suggestion of a scotoma. Scotoma is not compared to the normals, but it is compared to the surrounding area. So this graph doesn't compare to the normal. Now we have something called as Anderson and Petrelius criteria, which are very important. So what are these criteria? Any one of these should be present in the single field printout. That is an abnormal glaucoma image field test, a pattern standard deviation abnormal at P less than 5% level. We should have a cluster of 3 or more points on the pattern deviation plot, abnormal at P less than 5% level, and at least one at P less than 1% level in an expected area of visual field. So how to read the checkpoints? So basically, as I told you, we learn these mnemonics called as grades. So G, that is the general information. R is the reliability. A, look for the abnormal of the normal fields. D, look for the defects. E, evaluate. And S is subsequent evaluation. So the reading of a normal Humphreys rate can be made very easily if you divide the whole printout into this following zones. Now, coming to the next part of my talk was OCT, a quick guide to interpretation. Now, OCT is accepted as an adjunct tool in assessing and monitoring glaucoma. Currently, the most common commercially available HD OCTs are Cirrus, RTView, Spectralis, and Topcon. Each machine has different glaucoma scan patterns, proprietary software, segmentation algorithm, and display output. So this is very, very important. One has to understand this. The data of one machine can't be compared with that of another machine. So this is very, very important when you're reading an OCT report. If the patient gets OCT report from a Cirrus machine and you have an RTView, you have given an RTView report, you can't compare these two reports. So coming to the SD OCT, what are these clinical applications for glaucoma? You have the nerve fiber layer analysis, the optic nerve analysis, the ganglion cell analysis, the guided progression analysis, anterior segment imaging by OCT with anterior segment premier module, and combination analysis from HD OCT and the Humphreys visual field. Now, how does this analysis report help us? It offers a qualitative and a quantitative information in an easy to read format. So basically, you have this RNF and optic nerve head optic disc cube, which is 200 by 200 size. This scan of the optic disc captures a 6 by 6 millimeter cube. So the area within this is segmented for analysis, and from this cube of data, the machine automatically identifies the center of the disc and creates a 3.46 millimeter calculation circle around the disc. And the RFL thickness along this peripheral area is analyzed and compared to the normative data. So as we divided the Humphreys field into various zones, even an ONH and RNFL analysis report, this is the report how we get it after the printout is taken. It has to be divided into various zones. So zone 1 is basically the patient data. Zone 2, you can see zone 2 is basically the key parameters compared to the normative data, which are displayed in table format. Zone 3 is the nerve fiber layer thickness map, which is a topographical display of RNFL. An hourglass shape of yellow and red color is typical of normal eyes. Zone 4 is the RNFL deviation map, which shows how much is the deviation from the normal. Zone 5 is the neuroretinal thickness profile, which is matched to the normative database. And zone 6 is the RNFL TSNIT graph, which displays the patient's RNFL measurements along this calculation circle compared to the normative data. So this is the 6 zones which I showed. Coming to the next 7 zones, basically you have the RNFL quadrant and clock hour average thickness, which is again matched to the normative database. You have the horizontal and the vertical B scans, which are extracted from the data cube to the center of the disk. And then you have the RNFL calculation circle, which is automatically centered to the optic disk and extracted from the data cube. So coming to the zone 1, which shows the patient's age, data, image quality, and signal strength, you have to stress on this and see whether the proper name has been entered, the date of birth has been entered, because both in Humphreys as well as in OCT, the proper age is very important because everything is compared to the normative database. Coming to the key parameters, there's a normative comparison is based on the patient's age and disc size. For a particular age and disc size, the patient is expected to have a rim volume, CD ratio, etc. within certain ranges. So those parameters will be shaded as red, yellow, and green based on how they compare to the normal ranges. So when the disc area is outside the normal limits, the normative data comparison is not there. And when there is no normative data comparison, the parameters are shown in gray instead of green, yellow, and red as shown in this example. So RNFL quadrant and clock hours, that is zone 7, you can see or the superior, inferior, the nasal and temporal quadrants, and the clock hours also. And the inferior quadrant is the thickest when we compare to the normative database. So what does this color coding means to us? Basically, it's an optional patient education page. The OCT fundus image with the deviation map facilitates the discussion with the patient about their field loss. The RNFL peripapillary thickness profile is shown for each eye, providing easier visualization and comparison. So the color-coded indication of normative data comparison for RNFL is distribution of the normals. So what does the white color means? The thickest 5% of the measurements fall in the white area. The green color means that the 90% of the measurements fall in the green area. And the yellow color means that the thinnest 5% of the measurements fall in the yellow area or below. And red means the thinnest 1% of the measurements fall in the red area. So measurements in red are considered as outside normal limits. So the ONH values will be shaded gray if the disc area is not within the central 90% of the normal range. So coming to the limitations, we do have some limitations with this OCT that can be the acquisition dependent, database related artifacts, disease related variation, and other co-founders. Dr. Sukanya, if I'm running short of time, please let me know because I'm not able to see the timer here.
You still have 4 minutes to go.
Please carry on. Okay, please carry on. Your talk is very interesting.
Thank you. So we have this acquisition dependent artifact also. Now, what is this acquisition dependent artifact? We look for the signal strength. The scan quality affects the OCT performance. So the effect is greater on RNFL than on ONH and the ganglion cell complex. So the best quality scan should have a signal strength of more than 8, but an acceptable is anything more than 6. So 5 or anything less than 5 is not acceptable. You should repeat your scans. So each machine has its own signal strength value. So refer to your user manual. So like Zeiss shows in the increments of 1 to 10, whereas the RTView will be showing in terms of 100. The top one will be showing in terms of 100. So every machine has its own proprietary algorithms, as I mentioned in the beginning of my talk. So do not compare signal strength of two different machines. There can be technical errors due to this decentration, eye movement, or microseconds. You can see in this graph that this horizontal line which I'm showing with my mouse is because of the movement of the eye. Again, you can see these microseconds in this measurement cube, and due to the blink, you can see how it looks. So these are the acquisition dependent artifacts. Then you have the database dependent artifacts. Now again, let me tell you, these machines, the normative data is not a huge normative data. The normative data is limited to which everything is compared. So you have a red disease and a green disease. Now red disease is a misdiagnosis, that you have missed a diagnosis. And green disease is you have missed a diagnosis. So again, it's a misnomer. So color code determined by the database of the instrument. So what is red disease? A diagnosis of glaucoma based on mistaken identification of an area as abnormal. So patient is not represented in the normative database. That's why the RNFL thickness falls outside the normal range and the average RNFL value is shown as red. Now why? Because it is not there in the normative database. So when this occurs, especially in refractive STs, like especially high myopia. Now what is green disease? It is a missed glaucoma diagnosis because the OCT appears normal. In this, the average RNFL thickness shows green color. So you feel that the OCT is normal, but actually it is not so. If you look at the small focal changes of damage, you can see in this, the red-free image, that there is an RNFL defect here. In the OCT, there is an RNFL defect, but whereas in the mouse, it is not showing any defect. It is showing green color, the average RNFL thickness. But when you look at a particular area, you can see that there is an RNFL thickening, RNFL loss in the clock hour segment. So basically, small focal areas of damage are there, which are not included in the average RNFL thickness. It shows up as green because the instrument averages the thickness in a particular sector. So the focal change is masked by global parameters. You can see in this example, in the right eye, the average RNFL thickness was 87. But when you look at this deviation map, you can see there is an RNFL defect which has been reflected in the inferior quadrant and also in the inferior clock hours and also in the RNFL thickness map and also in the neural rim thickness map and the RNFL thickness map. You can see this localized defect. So never get biased by just looking at the average RNFL thickness. You have to read the whole OCT in total. You can see, and this defect is correlating with our red-free photograph, which have been shown here. So again, age of the patient is very important. Like for the Zeiss, if the patient is less than 18 years of age, all parameters are white. You can see all these parameters. There's no significance of any color here. There's no red, white, yellow, green. There's no red, green, or yellow color. Why? Because there's no age matched database. Now, for the Zeiss machine, anything less than 18 years, there's no age matched normative data. So whatever patients, suppose 15 or 16 years of age, you subject them to OCT. This is how you are going to get everything is shown in white. Now coming to the disease-related variation, you have the floor effect. Now what is this floor effect? With advanced loss, the RNFL thickness levels of rarely below 50 microns and almost never below 40. So due to the assumed presence of residual glial and non-neuronal tissue, including the blood vessels, you get this for at least 40 millimicron thickness as the RNFL, but never less than that. So at this level of disease, it's no point in getting serial OCT done. What is more important is you should get visual fields done. So do not use OCT in advanced glaucoma. You have to monitor through your visual fields. Now this is called floor effect. Other ocular confounders are media opacities. So the areas in which the data is missing is due to an opacity which are represented as black in the N-class SLO image. You can see in this, these are the vitreous opacities and they are basically shown as black spots which are highlighted in my pictures. Next is segmentation errors. It is important to look for proper placement of the segmentation line which are produced by the SD-OCT machine software algorithm. These lines should not come together, but they should be at infinity. So this is how the segmentation lines will look at different signal strength. And basically a diagnosis of glaucoma, to summarize, can't be just based only on OCT or only on visual fields. You have to examine the patient in toto. So the fundus photograph, the red field photograph, the fields, the OCT, and the ganglion cell complex, which is a new thing. Everything has to be correlated. So coming to the checkpoints, just last two slides. So the checkpoints for visual field, always look for the test parameters, whether they have been entered properly or not, the birth date, proper trial length, test program pattern selected. Look for the reliability indexes. There is a high fixation loss, false positive, false negative. The gray scale used for quick identification of potential photomas and depressions. The total deviation, which is designed for generalized visual field defect. The pattern deviation, which is designed to highlight the localized defect. True defects on the PD should be characterized by the shape and location. Look for the global indices, differentiate from glaucomatous and neurological field, and always look for the Anderson's and Pratella's criteria. Now, coming to the checkpoints for OCT, proper entry of patient's parameter is very important, as we showed in the fields also. Appropriate centration of the peripapillary circular scan if your machine is not having the auto-focus option. Signal strength value of a scan should be greater than 5, as I